Hi everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Fast Lane Pod. My name is Temi, and with me,
As usual, my name is Olawunmi. How y'all doing? Welcome to the
his
Fast Lane
name
Pod.
hasn't changed.
It's never going to change. It's been 50 years with this name. It's never going to change.
It's always a pleasure, guys. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. Just finished rounding up first test week in Bahrain.
Yeah, yeah.
How was that, Olawumi? Let's jump into it.
It was exciting. It was also very illuminating. It
Hmm.
was eye-opening. You got to see everything. We now know there was the shakedowns up until testing. Everything's speculation. And you're
Mhm.
wondering who's going to be fast, who's got the car right. I mean, what's going to happen with the season? And it's a complete rules reset, right? New engine
Mhm.
rules, sorry, new power unit rules, as to be politically correct, new power unit rules, new aerodynamic rules, and so and then two new teams, and then there are teams changing engine providers. So I mean, come on, it was a lot. There was a lot to look, and I was really looking forward to the season and just trying to the season, the testing,
Mhm.
and just to see how things would unfold.
Yeah.
And yes, it was very exciting. What about you? What did you think
Yeah.
about testing?
Yeah, I think the same, to be honest. To be honest, I've been counting down for everyone to get back on track for a couple of months now. So it was just good to see all of our favorite teams back on track. And then, we had the new players as well who we haven't seen on track. We had some old drivers come back. It was good to see Perez. It was good to see what's the other guy,
Valtteri
Bottas as
Bottas,
well.
yeah.
Exactly. So and then there was a new face as well. There was what's his name, the new rookie that joined,
Mhm.
Limbad, something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, it was good to see him as well. So I think generally I was excited, everyone was excited, but then there was a bit of, I guess, drama as well, right? So that was classic F1. So yeah, please, if you haven't already, before we continue, please like, subscribe to our channel, and leave your comments as well. How was it seeing everyone back on track officially for the first time in 2026?
Yeah, yeah. It would be nice to hear from you. I watched testing.
Hmm.
I watched some of the days. I mean, they didn't show everything. They showed a few hours every day,
Yeah.
but it was great to see like the testing and just see the cars back on track. And of course, I know you have your Lewis Hamilton pain. I know you have your pain about Lewis.
Let's move on. To be honest, I feel like I just put that at the back of my mind. And as I said,
uh,
this season, Lewis isn't the only driver I'm rooting for. So at the end of the day, I really wish Ferrari the best. But this is also, in my opinion, this is George's year, right? And as I've mentioned previously, I do have a soft spot for Mercedes.
mm,
And so I'm looking forward to other people doing well, looking forward to seeing how Piastri makes use of the season, looking forward to George and seeing what he can do on the track, but then also looking forward to seeing the new teams like Cadillac and Audi and to see what Adrian Newey has done with the Aston Martin, right? So I think, yeah, if Lewis is not ready to be serious and focus on F1, there are a lot of other
no.
drivers that will be serious for us.
But talking Lewis, I mean, let's not start with Lewis, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about Lewis's performance? Lewis and the Ferrari.
I think that it was pretty good. I think generally the Ferrari looked strong. I think the
Hmm.
word people have been throwing around is reliable.
Yes.
I think in terms of lap time, they had one of the highest, if not the second
Yep.
highest, number of laps that they were able to do. I've got some stats here. So yeah, Ferrari were able to do 420 laps over the course of the 3 days.
Hmm.
And that puts them in joint second position.
Hmm.
The only other teams that were able to complete more laps than them was the current champs, McLaren, and
Hmm.
then the Williams also
Hmm.
did 422, and literally just two more laps. So I think
Yeah.
just in terms of Lewis's performance, I guess in terms of Ferrari as a whole, I think the car
Hmm.
was reliable,
Hmm.
which is really what we want for Ferrari.
Hmm.
Definitely what I
Hmm.
want, right? We want a reliable car. I think also, I mean, I know they say don't look at times and things like that if it's in testing mode, but still, overall, in terms of lap times, Lewis was able to put in the third fastest lap time across
Yeah,
the 3 days, right? So it's early days, I know, but it doesn't seem like Ferrari is in the worst position, right? What do you think?
absolutely. Spot on. The car was fast. They had very good times, and Lewis in particular was very. He seemed to be very comfortable in the car. There was something else
Mhm.
though about reliability.
Mhm.
Reportedly, Ferrari ran the same engine they ran during shakedown,
Mm,
which means they put a lot of miles on that engine
mm,
and without issues. That is already impressive. If you have a reliable engine, so you can make
mm,
a reliable car faster. I mean,
mm.
do you understand? And you can also, I mean, the arguments. I mean, what's the Colin Chapman always used to say back in the day that you can make a fast car reliable or something, but you start with speed
Mhm.
and build reliability into it. It would appear that Ferrari have nailed both things. They have a fast car that's also very reliable. That's a good place to begin the season with. I just
Yeah,
hope that they also got the aero right
yeah,
because I mean, it's one. I mean, they've had fast engines in the past, but they didn't get the aero right. And you also, I mean, then there's the gremlin, the strategy, right? But at least you start somewhere. You have a good, fast car, which gives
yeah,
you a reliable basis to improve. So I was, and then the fact that, and look, like you said, you can't judge by lap times alone. But it appeared that Lewis was on it. He wasn't driving in Charles' shadow.
yeah.
So it looked like Lewis is in harmony with the car. I hope he's in harmony in his private life. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Moving
So
on.
let's just get this guy a reliable engineer, right? Let's just
so,
get
so,
Lewis a reliable engineer, and then let's
so
move on.
speaking of engineers, I saw in the headline somewhere
Mm,
something about, there's this um Ferrari have signed, I don't know whether to call him an engineer, but they've signed
mhm,
someone from McLaren who used to work within Piastri's team, right? He was on
mhm.
Piastri's side um of the, what do you call it? Of
Garage,
the garage, exactly. His name is Cedric Grosjean.
yeah.
He hasn't been a race engineer before, but there are reports that he's going to be Lewis's next engineer, right? I think, there's been speculation about who it will be, right?
Mm, mm,
I guess what still leaves me a bit worried is the fact that we don't know who. And as much as we're hoping that it's, someone with a lot of experience, which this Cedric Grosjean I don't think has as a race engineer,
mm.
but although we're hoping it will be someone with a lot of experience, even if the person does have experience, I feel like won't there be teething pains? I mean, I don't know when they're bringing this person on board, but I would think that there needs to be some form of chemistry, right? You don't just start in Melbourne and automatic clicks. Fingers crossed it does, right? But I just would have hoped and liked that they had the beginning, they had testing to build, they had the
To
shakedown to
bond, yeah,
build
yeah, yeah. I
exactly
agree.
that bond between them. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I agree completely. That it'd be nice for them to, I mean, to even work the kinks out of their relationship at the very beginning during testing. Let's agree on how we communicate and because I mean, last season
Mhm.
was it was a bit of a comedy show. Trying to watch my language here between Lewis and Adami. There appears it was absolutely frustrating. And I remember the last race of the season when Lewis was like, "Did you hear me? Did you not hear me?" Like it seemed like he was holding a grudge at
The
some
only
point.
good thing about that whole situationship is that I feel like it can't get much worse, right? So I feel like whoever comes on board now will be better,
Mhm.
just in terms of the relationship. Fingers crossed. So yeah, Ferrari, we're waiting for you. I'm not sure what's causing the delay, but we're waiting for you. So maybe, but can we just talk about before we continue with like the drivers and their performance on track, you know, I think it was on day two when they were giving interviews about the new regs.
Hmm.
And there was, you had, can I call them the big boys?
Yeah.
You had the big boys, the people that had won championships,
Yeah.
multiple championships. You had Lewis, he came on board.
Lewis,
He said
Max.
the
Hmm.
regulations are ridiculously hard to understand. You almost need a degree. He
Hmm.
said, I
Hmm.
quote, fans won't get it. And right now, we're slower than F2. So, as
Hmm.
much as you say the car is fast, Lewis didn't seem to think so, right?
Hmm.
You also had Max who came on board and he was saying that it's no fun to drive the car, that it's like Formula E on steroids. It's not the original Formula One. And
That
he
was
basically
hilarious.
said he basically said it's not the Formula One that everyone knows. Alonso as well, similar complaints, right? So you have those drivers on one side saying, this is not what we're used to.
Yep.
It's not it's not that it's not what we're used to, but it's not what we enjoy about Formula One. It's not what makes Formula One Formula One. And then you had the newbies, the new schoolers. I would have said the guys that haven't won a championship, but now we have Lando who's won one. Catch my saltiness there, but anyway, um, and they were like, I think it was Lando and George were like, come on, we get paid a ridiculously amount of money to drive, and so we need to drive the cars. It was like echoing, that what's that Elkin, that guy at Ferrari, the CEO of
John
Ferrari, that was
Elkin.
like,
John
yeah, that
Elkin.
was like, shut up and
Shut
drive.
up and
It was
drive.
it was giving me those vibes, right? Like we get paid a lot of money, so we can't complain about it. We need to drive. What do you think? What are your views?
Those were strong words. I saw something today on Reddit, and somebody had said one of the younger drivers, newer drivers, had said on condition of anonymity,
Hmm.
he'd said, "Can you?" He said something along the lines of, he said the experienced drivers can." I'm going to read this now. He said Max spoke for a lot of drivers in terms of his criticism about the engines and what if all of his stuff is. Said a lot of drivers they can't come out openly to speak their minds because of the fear of
Mm,
reprisals from their teams, from the
mm,
manufacturers, from the FIA, from the Formula One
mm,
organization. But people like Max and Lewis, who had a voice, you know, can do that. But the drivers at the back of the grid can't really talk. They have no clout. And so
yeah,
what you basically heard from Fernando and Max and Lewis was what all the other drivers are thinking.
yeah,
That this
yeah.
is
I
not what we
mean,
signed up for. This is too complicated. I mean, they're having to lift and coast. They're having to manage battery deployment and co. It's become so much more technical that it's no longer fun for the drivers. And I'm beginning to ask myself, I mean, look, it'd be nice to see what it looks like when the actual racing begins. But
hmm,
I would love to go back to a very much simpler formula, to be honest.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, they're talking about, I understand how we got here. The environment, they had to make it relevant to the environment and all that. But I feel like this is the pinnacle of motorsports. And with the move toward e-fuels now, towards greener fuels, I'm wondering, shouldn't F1 just go back to basic ICE engines with powered by by sustainable fuels? Okay, let's have proper racing without all the gibbons, all the MGUK, MGUH, the hybrid technology, batteries, and all that. Maybe we need to just go back to simplify and let Formula E be Formula E, and let Formula One be Formula One, and let
and you,
endurance racing be endurance racing. Let endurance
yeah,
racing be the test bed for these technologies, and let Formula
yeah,
One just be the outright pinnacle of motorsports.
yeah, and you make a good point, right? Because okay, I saw a lot of people being cautious, right? And I feel like Charles Leclerc wrapped this up. Like I think
Mm,
one of the he was doing an interview, and someone was asking about the performance of the car and his performance generally, and he was basically saying that, look, he's going to stay very cautious, right? He can't really
Mm.
say that he's enjoying the car or that anything like that, because now there are like 15 different ways that you can hide your performance. Previously, there were only like two or three things that you can do, but now there are like 10 to 15 ways that you can hide your performance. And I think that's really it. I feel like this year, and maybe we've seen so in other years, but I think this year more than ever, it's not necessarily the best driver on track
Yeah.
that will do well. There are so
Mm-hmm.
many other things that drivers need to get their heads around.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like who is like the fastest learner, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the person that we will see initially excel.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely
to be
correct.
honest, and sorry, just to say that, and you know, the rookie we spoke about, Limblad, I hope I'm pronouncing
Mm-hmm.
his name correctly. But when I saw him, he didn't do too badly in terms of race times. I know we're not looking at race times, but where was he? He was okay. Well, overall he was 20th, but on I think it was on day 3, he
Mm.
was 11th or something like that, right? Just
Mm.
outside top 10. So obviously these are new regulations for him, and he's just entered Formula One. So he doesn't have to try and put out all the old things out
Mm-hmm.
of his mind because, you know, he's just joining. So I think he's in
This
a
is
good
what he's
place.
learning. He's in a very good place. He doesn't have to unlearn any bad habits or learn something new. This is for him. This is He's probably in the best place because everyone's learning the technology, and he's for him. This is the first. No
Yeah,
bad habits, no muscle memory to unlearn.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
This is F1 for him. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely challenging for the drivers to understand these new rules. And if you look at Lewis, if I look at the oldest guys on the grid,
Hmm.
whether it's Lewis, it's Fernando, who are the elder statesmen of the grid, right? And then to a lesser extent, Sergio Perez and Bottas and Nico Hulkenberg. You have
Yeah,
guys that have sort of gone through different eras of F1,
right.
but
Yeah,
with Lewis and Fernando, you have guys who didn't even drive in the hybrid era.
yeah.
You know, completely different, and they've had to just. I mean, you have to feel Fernando's pain. I think Fernando entered F1 in the V10 era, at the end of the V10 era. So there was the V10s, and there were the V8s, and then the V6 hybrid era, you know. And then they've had, again, within the hybrid era, you've had the MGUK, MGUH. So many
Mhm.
iterations. And then now it's getting, like, I mean, you have to have a degree in computer programming or something. Or like Lewis said, you have to be a graduate to get on top of these cars. So you're going to see
Yeah,
people tripping up because they don't know how to, whether it's conserving their batteries, lift and coast, recharging the battery. I mean, it's definitely going to be tough. Going to be tough. But speaking of drivers, what do you think about Mercedes?
hmm.
With all the controversy about their car, what do you think about their testing performance?
Yeah. I think they were good. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think it was, you know, they looked during shakedown, they looked quite
Mm-hmm.
strong.
Mm-hmm.
I think going into testing, they maybe took a step back, and they didn't look as reliable as we had expected because of everything in the news and also just like the bits, what we had heard from shakedown, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Kimmy who struggled a bit, wasn't able to complete as many laps. Um, but still, I think they have a good they've got a good car, they've got a good engine. I
Mm-hmm.
almost feel like they are not showing us everything because they don't want to seem to be outperforming everyone. And so when we see the issues that they had with the car this time, I'm wondering at the back of my head that are these really issues? Are you just trying to confuse us? And I saw George was giving an interview, and they asked him how he felt about the car. And then the first thing he says is like, "Oh yeah, I mean, I think we're not doing as well as Red Bull." And he started talking about Red Bull, right? And it was like, "Okay, are you deflecting here, or like who brought Red Bull into this conversation?" So I don't know. I don't know.
I think the word is sandbagging. I
Yes.
think Mercedes came here to sandbag.
Mm,
I think they proved their point doing shakedowns, and they know how reliable their car is. I
mm,
mean, they really had during shakedown. They put in a full race simulation with Kimi. So I think they came in here saying, let's not frighten the other drivers. Let's not push the FIA to into banning our engine or coming up with a new way of testing that stops us from being who we are.
hmm.
And also because Mercedes supply so many other teams with engines, right?
Yeah.
They
True.
don't necessarily need to push as much. So all they're testing in their own car is aero and integration between the aero and the mechanical, right? Between the engine and the rest of the car.
Hmm.
But any mileage run by McLaren and Williams, and I don't know who else the other teams they're supplying are.
That's a
Any,
good point.
so any mileage run by those engines is vicarious mileage. You can get that data from those teams. You can get data on how the engine is performing from those teams. So we don't need to push our own package so much. If you think about it, all the testing miles that that Williams concluded, that Alpine concluded, and that McLaren concluded are also race miles tested of the Mercedes engine.
That's a good point. That's a good
Yeah,
point because when we speak about reliability, the Williams was very reliable, right? They were the guys, the only other guys that did more than Ferrari just in terms of
of lap
laps.
times, outright laps. Yes.
So that's a good. So can we look at that for a second? So I have oh, I saw this diagram. I'm not I hope I can still find it that oh, you might know, right? So it showed whose engines
Mm-hmm.
um were like who has the same engines, right? The same
Mm-hmm.
engine manufacturers.
Yeah, I saw that one. I saw that one. I
So
saw
I
that.
know so to be honest, even what do you call it? Even
Mm-hmm.
Haas looked good this weekend.
And they're
Um
powered by Ferrari, I think.
exactly,
Haas run
yes
the
they
Ferrari
are.
power unit. Yeah.
Yeah, they were good this weekend. Who else does Mercedes power apart from Williams? You mentioned someone else.
Williams, McLaren, and I think. Hold on, I had it a
Mm,
few seconds ago. I think it's Alpine.
okay. So yeah, I think that speaks volumes, right? Yeah,
I
okay, I
believe they're
found it. So
powered.
who's powered
Yeah.
who? So
Yeah.
Mercedes powers Mercedes, McLaren, Alpine, and the Williams.
Okay.
Ferrari is Haas, Ferrari, and Cadillac.
Okay.
And then you have the Red Bull,
Red Bull powering Red Bull
Red Bull and Red
and
Bull
Red Bull. Yeah.
Junior.
RBR.
And
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then you have Honda with Aston Martin and then
Aston
Audi,
Martin.
Audi.
Mm.
What do you think of Aston Martin? We haven't spoken about them.
Train wreck. Train wreck. Train wreck.
Do you know that I just feel like the pressure on Newey's head is pressure
Uh,
that only God can carry. Because everyone going into this season and and still now, right, everyone is like Newey, he's transforming everything, he's changing the team around. And so I feel like regardless of the things he can control,
mhm,
regardless of the things he can't control, if
mhm.
anything goes wrong, it's just on his head. Do you get what I mean? There's just so much pressure.
So I agree to some extent.
Hmm.
So I mean, you've already seen the new effect: the rear of the car, the rear suspension of the car, the zero pods concept. There's already innovations that you can tell that okay, Ejanu is at work here, and
Okay.
there's a sense that he's produced a kick like a killer chassis, a killer car.
Hmm.
The problem is that they also have a new engine, Honda. And it's looking like the Honda engine might be the weakest link. And if you remember the last time Honda came into F1, this whole same thing, it was we're going to be a works engine. McLaren always had the philosophy that you can't win the F1 title if you don't have a works team. That as a customer team, you can't win. Incidentally, they won last year as a customer team, right? But they've always believed. So when Honda were going to come back into F1, they partnered with McLaren. McLaren have had, I mean, back in the day, in the 80s and the 90s, they had this very successful McLaren Honda era. So Honda coming back into F1, they partnered with McLaren. And Alonso was the lead driver of the team at that time. And it was a
Okay.
disaster.
Oh
It was
yeah.
so bad. I mean, we covered this in our last episode. It was so
Yeah.
bad that Alonso went and drove in the Indy 500, powered in a McLaren car powered by a Honda engine, and that engine blew up. With about 30 something laps to go, he was in the top 6 or top 13 or something. He had an outside chance of winning the race until his engine blew up. So it seemed like he couldn't escape the Honda gremlins. Here we are again. And I know that in Aston Martin right now, people are wondering, we hope that this Honda engine is not an absolute dog.
Yeah.
But I think from testing so far, I mean, Lance Stroll came out and said that we're 4 seconds a lap
4 seconds.
behind everybody
Yeah.
else. Yeah. That means if you're 4 seconds a lap behind everybody else, on an average lap, you will get lapped before the end of a race.
Yeah.
You
He
will get in 20 seconds, in a 20 lap, you will get you will fall 4 seconds lap. In 20 laps, you're 160 seconds behind.
did he say per lap?
He
I
said
heard 4
he said 4
seconds
seconds a lap.
a
4 seconds
lap.
a lap
Yeah.
slower. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Alonso has said, sorry, you're going. Go on.
exactly. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying that Alonso has also complained about the speed of a car.
Yeah.
He's tried to be. I feel like Honda would have had a quiet word with Aston Martin and said, "Look, this guy cannot criticize us too harshly. You have to let Alonso know that it cannot be like McLaren all over again. He cannot call out. He cannot insult our car. And the Japanese are very big on honor and saving face. So I think that Alonso is picking his words very, very carefully. But I don't. If Lance Stroll is saying we're 4 seconds a lap behind, and Lance is the milder one of the two drivers, I can't
I was
imagine
about to
what
say
Fernando. Hot
that is
Latin
literally
blood.
what I wanted to say. That Lance is not one for many words, but
Mm,
it was clear, he was vocal, he's not pleased, with the way
mm,
things are going. And from um Alonso's body language, he's very upset with the car already, right?
yeah,
I'm thinking, come on, guys. I don't know. I feel like it's too early to say, right? I just feel like
yeah.
let's even see next week. Second round of testing. Let's see, right? Because I think next week is the time that we will see people, really testing, right? People
Mm.
trying different things and, whatever the case is. So all I would say is to Aston Martin is please just, have some patience. Have some patience. Let's see. Let's see.
When you're Fernando and you're 41 or 42, and you're thinking you don't have much time,
Time for
patience is
what?
not your.
Time for
Before,
what? What is he trying to
before the
win a
end of his career,
championship? What is he
he'd
trying
like
to
to
do?
win a few.
Time
He'd
for
like to win
what?
a few more races.
A few more races. Right.
I
Okay.
think, you know, Alonso is 44. I tell you one thing: if you don't think that you can win, you have no business being on the grid. Alonso might not say, "Oh, I think I can win." He might not say it, but if you asked Alonso, would you like to win a race or two? I think the answer would be yes.
That's no
And
that's
and
different, right? You said if you don't think you can win, you have no place being on the grid. I don't
if
I'm
you're
not sure that I'm not sure that's correct. I think and it's different. Like Alonso he would like to win. Who wouldn't like to win? Does he think he can win? I'm not sure. And he's still on the grid. Yeah, he enjoys driving. Why wouldn't he be on the grid if he has a seat? Do you get what I mean?
yeah, but this year he's got his first chance to work with Adrian
Adrian
Newey.
knew. Okay.
So you're suddenly back in a works car with the greatest Formula One driver of all time, Formula One designer of all time, in Adrian Newey, and you have the engine manufacturer that powered Red Bull to 4 of the last 5 titles. in F1. I think you have to fancy your chances.
I know.
You might not say,
Yeah.
but I think you are looking at it and thinking, I fancy my chances.
Yeah. I know stats speak a lot, but I think there's a lot that goes into a Formula One car. It is the
Mm-hmm.
design, it is the engine, it is the driver, it is the track. It
Mm-hmm.
is so many things that make a winner, a race winner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as I was trying to say before, I just think that we have placed so much hope or belief on this Adrian Newey's head. And the question I'm
Mm-hmm.
asking, or the question I'm thinking is that enough? Is that enough to turn Aston Martin around? I don't know, but we will see, right?
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
We'll definitely find out. But I think Fernando is right to be excited. And I
Hmm.
think if you're Fernando, I don't think Fernando has ever thought he was on the grid to just make up the numbers.
Mm.
Fernando is a winner, he's a champion. And it's been almost 20 years since his last
Wow,
title.
really?
About 20 years since he won back to back titles. And at that time, he would have thought, and they were back to back, he would have thought these were the first of a series of titles.
Mm.
And when you think about his heroes, Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, he would have thought at that time that Senna had 3 titles, Prost had 4. I
Hmm.
think Alonso would have thought winning his second title that at the very least, I will equal Ayrton Senna. 3 titles and I equal Senna. 4 titles and I equal Prost.
How many
If
titles
you,
does he have now?
2,
Two.
the 2
Okay.
Renault titles. So even if he doesn't feel like he can win, and he went to Ferrari to challenge for titles, and he came close a couple of times.
Okay.
So I think now he's like, well, I have a works car, I'm working with Adrian Newey.
Hmm.
I think he's hoping at the back of his mind that, look, I should be able to get a title out of this thing. Or if not a
Yeah.
title, but 2, 3 race wins. It's been a while since he won a race. He hasn't won anything
Yeah.
since he left Ferrari. And he's been driving the Aston Martin now for what, 3, 4 years? I'm not certain how
Hmm.
many years he's been there. So
Hmm.
I think he's hoping that, look, that this time around, he gets to, if not win the title, at least win a few races and win a few podiums. And when he first joined Aston Martin, it seemed very promising, didn't it? It
It
was
did.
very promising. Yeah,
Yeah, it
he's done a
did.
few podiums. He's come close a couple of times.
Yeah.
So I think he thought,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think he's pained. I think I think I think he's worried. I think he's worried about the car.
No, I
I
agree.
think
I agree.
I think yeah, El Hermano Alonso está muy preocupada. I think he's a bit worried about the car.
What do you guys think? Please share your views. Is this maybe Alonso's year? Is this his year? Maybe not a championship, but maybe some more wins, right? Some more wins, some more podiums. I think he'd be
Yeah,
happy with that.
it it would be
Um,
nice.
Let us know your views. Or are we reaching too high? Oh
What
gosh.
about Red Bull? What about Red Bull?
What about Red Bull, really? I don't know. I mentioned earlier that I heard what's
Russell.
his name? Russell
Russell.
saying that he said he thinks that Red Bull have the best engine.
Mhm.
I
Which
didn't
would be
see
an
that.
amazing achievement.
But I agree. I agree
Uh,
when we think about the fact that is this the first time Red Bull have
this is the first time they're building their own engine.
they're building their own engine, and let's remember they're Red Bull, right? They're not even
They're
they're
a
not a
drinks
car.
company. They're a
Yeah, they're
marketing
a drinks
company.
company. So I mean, kudos to Red Bull. I think no matter what, it takes a lot to do what they're doing to achieve what they've achieved.
Hmm.
So and they didn't look bad on the track, right?
Hmm.
They didn't look bad on the track. Isaac didn't. I think
Sandbagging.
exactly,
They're sandbagging.
exactly, exactly,
I think they're
exactly,
sandbagging.
exactly. Because it made me wonder what does Russell know? Why is he saying, based on what is he saying, that he thinks they have the best engine?
So it's a game that they play in testing every year.
Mm.
They start, you know, that have you seen that meme, the Spider-Man meme, where they have 3 or 4 Spider-Man in a circle and they're all pointing, who's the real Spider-Man? They're all pointing at each other.
I haven't seen the
So,
meme. No.
or I'll put it up. Anyway, I think clearly the teams do this where you'll ask Mercedes, they'll say, oh, Red Bull are the team to beat.
Mhm.
Red Bull will say, oh, Mercedes are the team to beat. McLaren will say, oh, Ferrari are the team to beat. Last season, Red Bull was saying, oh, McLaren are the team to beat. And McLaren was
Turned out
saying, I
true.
think, oh yeah, that Red Bull are the team to beat. That Red Bull have won 4 back-to-back titles. That Red
Mm.
Bull are the team to beat. So I think there's an element of that.
Yeah.
That people are definitely managing expectations. People are definitely sandbagging. I think the Mercedes are sandbagging. I think that Red Bull are sandbagging.
Okay.
Those two. Ferrari, I feel like Ferrari have nothing to gain from sandbagging. And I think Ferrari are in a place where they need to show confidence to their management, to their fans. I think they want to enter the season with confidence and let that confidence, hoping that confidence takes them through to to the title. Yes, they're also saying there that look, point at Red Bull, point at Mercedes. They're doing that, but I don't think they are
I
pretending
agree.
as much as Red Bull and Mercedes are with
I
the
agree.
finger pointing. Oh, it's them. No, it's you. No, it's you. No, it's me. It's you.
It's almost childish, right? You know that he's the best in class. He's the one. He's the one. He's the one.
It's him. It's him. It's him. It's him. It's him.
It's
It's him. It's
almost
not me.
childish.
It's him. It's that guy. It's that
Yeah.
guy. It's that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. What did you make of Verstappen's comment about retirement?
What did he say? He was saying something about like when he was. It was when he complained about the car,
The
right?
car.
The
When he said like,
regulation. Sorry.
yeah, the car. When he said that the rules are too technical, that you're having to manage too many things. That this is Formula E on steroids.
Yeah.
He then,
It was when Norris responded and said like, if you don't want to drive, like don't drive. Basically, that go and retire. Of course,
yeah,
Norris always has someone else's name in his mouth. But anyway, you know, you know, I started off last season not really liking Verstappen. I
mm-hmm,
ended the season liking him very much. I think we've
mm-hmm,
definitely seen a change in Verstappen, right? We had before the very cocky, didn't want to speak to reporters, was too good to speak to anyone, Verstappen,
mm,
right? Um, and towards the end of the season, I don't know if it's because I think it was mid-season he had a daughter, right? You know, daughters, they
mm,
soften
mm.
everybody's hearts. Um,
I would know.
you would know. So I don't know if it was that or I mean, I don't know what changed, but he was really humbled towards the end of the season. And I saw a different Max. And this Max is kind of like, see, I have won my, is it 4 championships?
Yep.
This driving is not do or die for me. And to
Yeah.
me, the only reason why he's saying that is really because he has a family to go back home to. He's like, come on, I've
Yeah.
I've done more than I thought I would do. It's not do or die. And that's the thing I like about Max, because for me, the comment was really, once this thing is no longer fun, once I no
Mm-hmm,
longer enjoy it, I will leave. It is not do or
mm-hmm,
die. I'm not here for the money, and I already have the championships. Now he's blessed. He's able to say that because most of the other drivers cannot say that because they are still building up to something. But I think he's
yeah.
built up to it, right? So any other championship he wins, I feel like it's by the by. It's not a it's not a do or die affair for him. And so I'm not mad at his comments. I think it was honest.
I agree with you 100%. I think Max, for one thing, always seemed to have, I think maybe it's a Dutch in him, always seemed to say, look, I'm not here for, he was always very blunt. I'm not here to chase titles. I'm not here to chase outright records. I'm here to have a good time. And when it's no longer fun for me, I will leave. And like
Hmm.
you said, he's had the 4 titles. He's made a ton of money,
Hmm.
a an absolute ton of money. And he's proven, I mean, Max spends a lot of time in sim racing. He's a very good sim racer. He took part in the Nürburgring race last year, the Nürburgring
Mm,
GT3 race, and won that. First
mm,
time out, he won it.
yeah,
There's a Nürburgring 24 hours race this year. They had to postpone that so that he
he
could
could
run because it was
take part
clashing
in it.
with an F1 race,
Yeah.
and they've moved it so he could run. And when you think about the holy grail, the triple crown of motorsports, where you win the Monaco race or where you win the Monaco GP, you win the Indy 500, and you win Le Mans, or you win the F1 world title, you win Le Mans, and you win the Indy 500. So whether you call the triple crown the Monaco race or the Indy 500,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, Monaco race or the F1 world title.
Mm-hmm.
And Max has always said, I'm not really interested in these things, but he could very well go out there and do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he can write his own ticket. If he said today, I want to race in Le Mans, he could pick his team.
Yeah.
I think Ferrari would be glad to have him. He could pick his own team. If he wanted to go and race in the Indy 500 today, he would. So the sky really is a limit for him. And
Yeah.
like you said, he's got tons of money. He's still young enough to do. He can take a sabbatical if he wanted to. The man is genuinely talented. He could. I mean, Alonso took a sabbatical. Kimi Raikkonen took a sabbatical.
Okay.
Michael Schumacher took a sabbatical. So you can see Valtteri Bottas took a sabbatical, and Checo Perez took a sabbatical, and Nico Hulkenberg took a sabbatical. And in the
Yeah.
case of Nico, I mean, arguably he's had more success now after his sabbatical than before that. Raikkonen
Yeah. Sure.
had a pretty good after his sabbatical. So I mean, Alonso is not doing badly. So you can make a case for Max saying, you know what, I want to stay home with my children for a couple of years
Mm-hmm.
and do that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
well, I want to take a few years off. I want to win Le Mans. I want to win the Indy 500. And then, you know, I'll come back when there's less. But he's not under any pressure anymore. Max
I think
Verstappen
that's the
has
thing.
no point to prove to anybody. And
He's not under any pressure. That's it.
none. None. And like you, I didn't like Max, especially how he won that 2021 title.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But now that I've seen him lose his title to Lando, I'm like, yeah, okay, so I have love for you now. It's all right. I have love for you now. So, you know, I wouldn't feel pained if he won a fifth title this year. I wouldn't feel bad. I just don't want him to win 7 titles.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think he will, because I'm not even sure that he will stay in the sport long enough to do that. Um and
You think so?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Um I th- I think that there are a number of drivers this year that
Mm,
believe it's their year. I also
mm,
believe it is their year. And so
mm,
I think this year there will be a fight. Hopefully there will be. It's quite early to say, but I think a number of drivers are counting this year as their year. And I'm hoping it will be for all 3 of them. The 3 that's
which
I want.
takes me to the next logical question.
Mhm.
Who are those 3 drivers for you? Who are the drivers that you think will have a strong year?
Mike Georgie, that's the first one. Has to be George. I
Mm-hmm,
think I think George deserves it. He showed us last year that he's a good driver. And I think that this year all he needs to do is build on that, and then I
mm-hmm,
think he will be right up there fighting for a championship, coupled with the fact that we're hearing that Mercedes has a good engine and they have a good car. So I think he's in a really really good position. I think he also has a second driver that is also doing very well, that can support him, because I think that
mm-hmm.
matters as well, having someone that can support you out there. And they call them the, what do they call them, the Bin Ladens or something like that. They are they are a good team. Second is Charles Leclerc.
Mm-hmm,
I think he's one of the best drivers on the grid. He
mm-hmm,
deserves it.
mm-hmm,
And if Ferrari give him a good car, he will take it. He will literally
mm-hmm.
take it. Yes, I believe that. Um, and then Piastri, we saw the title stolen from under his from his grasp last year. feels crazy
fighting
saying last
talk.
year, right? It was just like
Yeah,
a couple of months ago, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
2
he
months
lost
ago.
the title last year by just a few points, right?
Narrowly,
And
yeah, narrowly.
very narrowly. And again, he's lucky that he's young and he has a number of more years.
Hmm.
So that's why I put him third, because I don't know how hungry he is for it. However, I think having been so close to it last year, that will intensify the hunger. And seeing, when you have a teammate that you low key know you are better than,
Hmm.
then and you see that person do well and win, I feel like it would ginger that, if Lando can win this thing, I can win this thing. And so I'm hoping he has that mentality this year. And if he does, I think he's definitely in the fight as well. So we have three people. And then I'm just gonna bring in my fourth, who is
Hmm.
the fourth person I'm mentioning, but he's always my number one, of course, is Lewis, right?
I was just
Um,
about to ask you. I was about to
yeah.
ask you that. I didn't hear Lewis's name.
Yeah, so Lewis is definitely my first, but also my fourth, because those three guys, in my opinion, they're like the rookies in quotes, people that haven't won a
Hmm.
championship before that have a fighting chance this year. But then
Hmm.
of course there is Lewis, and I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough year. If we think 2025 was tough, I think this year will be tougher.
So where do you place Lando in this equation?
The truth is that Lando strikes me as a one-time world champion. I don't I've just always thought that, like, and that's all, and that's kind of why, like, last year I was like, okay, he's won it, that's nice, at least he has it, right? But
Hmm.
I don't see Lando being a I don't see him being I don't that was Lando's time. I think I said that last year, right? It
Hmm.
was
You
his
did. You
time.
did say.
If he didn't win it then, I'm not sure he could win it again, and now he's won it. I'm not sure he's going to win it. And I can't wait till like a quarter into the season. I know things can change, right? But I just want to see. I don't know. I feel really strongly about this one. I just don't think he is going to win. Definitely not this year, right? I don't see it.
Okay.
We
What
need to
about
round
Lewis?
up. Give
What
us
about Lewis?
your top three, or maybe your cheat top four, like I slid in for. Who are
What
you rooting for this year?
what about Lewis? You
No,
don't think Lewis has a chance?
I said Lewis was my fourth.
Oh yeah, you did say Lewis.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's my first, but I
he's
was
a dark
talking about
horse.
like the newer guys. Yeah.
You're very
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, yeah. So you're not putting Max in there at all.
You know, I'm not saying, and the fact that I'm even about to stutter shows how I feel like it's tough, right? Because of course Max should be there, but I'm telling you the people I hope will be there, not the
Hope,
people
yeah,
that will be. This is the people I would like to see here
to
because I
see.
believe they deserve it. Yes.
So yeah, and that's pretty impressive. I don't know why I agree with you so much. I think on
Pick your own. Pick your own.
so I think okay, I'm gonna start with whom I would like to see do well this season.
Hmm.
I would like to see George have a strong title run.
Hmm.
I would like to see Charles have a strong title run.
Hmm.
I would like to see Oscar and Lewis have strong title runs. Those four,
Hmm. Okay.
you know. Now, who do I think,
Okay.
as opposed to whom I hope?
Yeah.
All right. I still think, I think Max is in there. I
Hmm.
think George is in there.
Hmm.
And I think the McLaren boys are in there.
Okay.
For some reason,
Okay.
I have doubts about the Ferraris. Not because of their outright speed, not
Hmm.
because of their reliability, but because it's Ferrari. Because in the last, since they won their last title with Kimi, they've come close with Seb, they've come close with Alonso,
Hmm.
they've come close with Charles, but they've always messed up in strategy or something. And so I
I know.
worry that they don't have the final edge. Look at how close McLaren came to losing it last season
Yeah.
because of this the silliness of the papaya rules and how they just couldn't make up their minds early enough. Which tells you that regardless how strong
Yeah.
the car and the driver, the package of the
Mhm.
car and the driver and the team, if the team don't get their act right, they can bin it. And so my worry with Ferrari is that even if Charles and Lewis are on top of their game, look at it this way: we're what 2 weeks, 3 weeks from the beginning of the season, and Lewis has no race engineer.
Yeah.
But they've known since at least November or at least December that
Yeah.
they were going to change their race engineer.
Yeah.
So how do you go into shakedown and testing without having confirmed the person who's going to lead the engineering team for the driver?
Yeah.
And that's my worry.
Yeah.
It's why I put them for me, they are dark horses. The Ferrari
Yeah.
drivers are dark horses in that thing. So you and I are more or less aligned. But I
Yeah.
think that this season it's Max, George, and the McLaren boys.
Boys.
But
I'm not
please
mad.
do not rule out Kimi. Do not rule out Kimi. Because Kimi's got the same package as George. And my understanding is that the Mercedes team rates him higher than they rate George.
That is a conversation for another day.
Another day. Yeah.
I think I disagree, but I really do like Kimmy, but I do not think that this will be his year. But
Didn't
I'm
Kimi
happy.
crash his car some days ago? He just crashed his car some days ago.
Yes, yes, he did.
Brand new Mercedes AMG.
He did.
Crashed
In
it.
fact, it was the day we recorded, and I actually wanted to give him a shout out and say I hope you're okay.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, he did. He did,
yeah.
Kimmy.
And that car was
He
he
is
was given that
okay
car
though.
that day or the day before.
Yeah, but he is okay. He's fine.
They're
But I
human.
don't. The car was not
Right
okay.
off, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brand new
Okay,
car.
but
Yeah.
I think
They're
we
human
are
after all.
in. I think we are in a good place going into the second round of testing
Mhm.
next week, and we will be back um, to see if some of the things that we have spoken about, thought about, decided on our own is proven to be right, to see if we're on the right track. I think definitely next week will give us more insight to how, how the teams are doing. Hopefully there's a bit more honesty on the grid, but I mean, there's no shame in the whole sandbagging game. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think next week we'll sort out the men from the boys. Or
hmm,
yeah, yeah.
hmm.
But we'll see.
The men from
We'll
the
see.
boys.
Men
Okay.
from the boys.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for watching us. Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this session, and I think it's really testament to 2026 F1. It is going to be an enjoyable year, and we hope that you stay with us throughout the season. We will be here consistently, at least once a week. Um, share the page at the Fast Lane Pod. We're going to try and make some new appearances on Instagram as well. We will put the handle in the description below. Please follow us on Instagram. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Yeah, it's gonna be a good season. I'm
I hope
excited.
so. I
I'm
hope so. I'm
excited.
excited too. I'm excited too. Yeah. I'm excited too. Yeah. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching us. We
Thank
appreciate your
you.
time. We appreciate your support. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We are the Fastlane Pod. My name is Olawunmi, and with me is Temi, and we say good night. Thank you very much for watching us.
Good night.
Good night.